make deposits in their lives, and help them mature into adults that can be good Christians, good citizens, effective members of society. And so we've been looking at biblical parents and families to gain some lessons and some instruction from them about the challenges of raising adults. And so last week we talked about discipline principles. Discipline principles. We're going to move on this week. We're going to talk about the second part of that and consider some practical issues and balances of discipline. This is discipline part 2. We could keep this going. Part 3, XIV, right? How high can we get the Roman numerals? We'll keep it at 3 probably. So let's get a couple of scriptures before we begin. First, I want to have someone read Proverbs 22, verse 6.
Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it.
Okay, this is our base text for the series. This is our framework. The point of parenting is that what you deposit when they're young, train up a child, you will see the results when they're old and when he is old, right? It says he will not depart from it. An actual clearer translation of the original Hebrew sounds more like, and he will find the path, right? They may go all kinds of which ways in the interim, but they will find the path, or they have a much greater hope of finding the path. So then our text for this morning, we're talking again about discipline, 2 Samuel 7, verses 12 to 15.
When your days are fulfilled and you rest with your fathers, I will set up your seed after you, who will come from your body, and I will establish his kingdom. He shall build a house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. I will be his father, and he shall be my son. If he commits iniquity, I will chasten him with the rod of men and with the blows of the sons of men. But my mercy shall not depart from him, as I took it from Saul, whom I removed from before you.
Okay, so we're talking about discipline. First, I want to discuss discipline balance. Now, our text, this is God speaking to David about his son Solomon. God is giving some parenting lessons here. The most crucial need in discipline is balance. If you don't have balance, it is going to be very unlikely that you will discipline your children effectively. And I believe that the greatest failures in parenting come from imbalance in discipline. I want to just dwell on that statement for a minute. The greatest failures in parenting don't come from parents being a mess up, because we all are mess ups, right? We all have a sinful past. We all have even sinned in our parenting. We've made horrible decisions. We've done dumb things, right? We've said things, right? We could go on. I don't believe that's where the greatest failures in parenting come from, because the world is full of people that had parents that did horrible things and had a horrible past, and yet were able to raise good kids. The failure in parenting that is the most pronounced is when we are imbalanced in discipline. And obviously there are two sides of this. You could have too little discipline. That is one imbalance. We probably have all met children that have not been disciplined enough. Hello? Maybe you were a child that wasn't disciplined enough. A feral little street rat biting the ankles of every passerby, right? Hello. No one would ever claim that for themselves. No, I was wonderful. Of course you were. I have an unfair advantage in my marriage, and that is that both of my parents are dead. My wife isn't allowed to ask them any questions about me. I can say that these kids didn't learn this from me. I never did that when I was, they probably got it from your side of the family. I'm sure of it. Right? She has no way, but see, I know the truth about who I was. Right? So we can have that. You can have children who they were never corrected. They are running wild. They have no respect, no discipline, no character. So that is one side. You can be imbalanced of too little discipline, but you can also be imbalanced way on the other side, right? Of course, the obvious is abuse. Abuse is never okay. Ever, period. And we'll talk a bit about this in a few minutes. But there is a point where you can go way too far. And so these are where the great failures of parenting lie. Either you don't correct your children, or you don't understand how it works and you do it too harshly or too much. And of course, when we talk about too much discipline, what we're talking about in reality is usually misguided discipline. I mentioned last week that discipline is not about what makes a parent angry, right? That's not the point. I don't discipline my kids because I'm upset. You discipline them because they did what was definably wrong. So if we're talking about discipline that's imbalanced that way, it's too much or too heavy, what we're talking about is usually wrong or angry or misguided discipline. People who have never thought about this subject, who've never really processed its meaning, given some thought, how should I correct or discipline my children? Never process the real meaning of that. They struggle to know what it means. And what happens usually is they latch on to one little facet of it, and that becomes their whole perspective, right? You've probably in your life met the cool parent, right? There's that one parent that maybe they heard on a podcast, or someone said, you know what, you need to be your child's friend. And I'm going to be their friend, right? And so then you've got, I had a kid I grew up with, his dad would buy him his weed. Okay, you know what? I think you're taking being his friend a little too far, right? Right? So, but that's imbalance. They've latched onto one facet of it. But then, of course, on the other side, there's parents that they hear, well, you know what, you've got to correct them, otherwise they're going to turn out bad. And so then that's all they know is I need to correct them. And every day it's a hiding for whatever reason. You can't just take one facet and make that your whole parenting approach. You have to have balance. That's the key. The truth is, we don't often think about this stuff. Every parent, if we were to ask any parent in the world, I'm sure, with very few exceptions, should you discipline your child? They would say, well, yes, of course. Now, their definition may vary, but I think we all agree that children need to be corrected, right? Or maybe not. Maybe you believe they should not. Fine. But the reality is we've never thought about the deeper questions. How? How do you discipline your children? Or what's the process? What's step one? What is step one of disciplining your child? Well, let's take off my belt. Okay, no, yes. That's way down there. Step one starts way before that, right? So, but we never thought about this, right? And usually it's because what do we learn? We just learned from our childhood. We learn whatever, we don't, our parents, God bless them, maybe they were misguided, unsaved, unrighteous, who knows, but we have this, and we've never thought about how it should actually work. Maybe we've never thought about what's the purpose, right? I've asked parents before, what's the purpose of discipline? And you'd be shocked how rarely parents can answer that question. Well, they did something wrong. Yeah, but why? Well, why do you need to discipline them? It's not just because they did something wrong. Let me just let you in on a secret. Because we're all doing stuff wrong. I haven't been hit yet today, and I'm pretty sure I've done some stuff wrong. So what's the purpose of discipline? What is the limit of discipline? Right? So these are the things we have to think about, right? And a million other questions. But the two principles I want to drive home this morning that will help us. The first is this: discipline requires restraint. Discipline requires restraint. 2 Samuel 7, verse 14.
I will be his father, and he shall be my son. If he commits iniquity, I will chasten him with the rod of men and with the blows of the sons of men.
Okay, the larger picture here, God has said to David, I'm going to be Solomon's father. And it's a whole nother discussion for another time. But look at what he says now. He's making a statement to David, even though I'm his father, I am going to show restraint because he is God. Could you imagine getting a hiding from God? How would that work? I mean, would he like one swat and you go into the future? You annihilated? I don't know. What does he say? He says, I'll use the rod of men. In other words, it's going to be proportionate. It's going to be the right size. Parent, if you hear only one thing this morning, discipline must be proportionate. Has to be the right size. It has to match the size of the child. It has to match the size of the infraction. If they broke the rule and they need to be disciplined, fine, that's fine. But maybe consider that they're 4 and they didn't murder someone. Keep the discipline in the right size. Hello? You're all looking at me like I'm crazy. What is happening? It doesn't have to be the worst. That is it. You have disgraced the family. He spilled juice on the rug. He didn't disgrace the family. Kids, I said this last week. The problem is sometimes kids are dumb. They eat rocks. They do dumb stuff, right? That's what God says. He says, I'm going to be the father, but I'm going to make sure that the discipline is proportionate. I'm not going to lose my mind because some little thing happened. I'm not going to absolutely be foaming at the mouth, swearing, punching holes in the wall because they made a mistake or they broke one of our rules at the dinner table. So God says, I'll correct him appropriately. He's a man, I'll correct him like a man. I'm not going to correct him like a beast. He's also saying he will use restraint. God has enormous power, but he says, I'm not going to use my power. I'm going to use power that's appropriate to Solomon's size. Listen to me, dads. When you are disciplining a little child, you don't need to use all your power. Maybe it makes you feel tough, that you can beat up a little kid. It doesn't make you tough. It needs to be appropriately sized. Man, it got quiet in here all of a sudden. Man. I want to read from Adam Clark. This is a commentator, and he's writing about this very verse. He says about Solomon, if he commits iniquity, I will chasten him to bring him to repentance. But it will be with the rod of man, such a rod as man might wield. I will not use against him the great power of God, or rather, I'll use such a rod as men may bear. I will consider his frame and correct him with all possible tenderness and compassion where there's need, and no more than there is need of. It shall be with the stripes, the touches, so the word is, of the children of men, not a stroke or a wound, but a touch. This is what he's saying, is I am going to use restraint. So listen, as a parent, when it comes to discipline, here is one of the first most crucial principles. You must learn the art of restraint in discipline. Otherwise, you run the risk, a real risk of doing genuine harm. Now, of course, as everything, that has to be balanced. When we first went to Las Vegas, Nevada, we were pastoring there, Paul and James, our oldest boys, they were 2 and 4. So they were just little guys, and at that point, we had to make the transition from swatting with the hand to using something else. We got a little plastic, like a stirring spoon, like you use for baking, and I tested it out on me first. And I whacked it. Wow, that hurts. I was like, okay, all right, because I needed to know the right level. They're kids. So I remember, giving them swats, and they would cry, And one time they were in bed. I don't remember what the infraction was. Listen, it was 2 brothers, 2 years apart. There was always something happening. There's always chaos happening. You guys know the glow sticks and stuff? There was a season where every night I would go in there, they would have glow sticks, they would use them, and then they would bite them until they would explode. So I'd go in there, they're asleep, and their faces are all glowing. So I have no idea what happened this night, but there's noise. I'm like, hey, all right, that's it. I'm going to spank your butt. And so I grab the spoon, and I go in, and when I used the spoon, I was very careful. I did not want to hurt them. Well, they had figured that out. But you know how I told you before that kids are dumb sometimes? Well, I walked in there, and James, the youngest one, he saw the spoon. He goes, that thing can't hurt me. Because I was using too much restraint. And I was like, oh, yeah, want to bet? and I showed him that, yes, actually, that thing can hurt you. But listen, restraint is a crucial skill to learn. This is why, number one, this is why discipline is not about your anger. I'm not saying that you won't be angry. You will be. But it's not about anger. You don't discipline your children because you're mad. Because I get mad about things that are not disciplinary issues. I get very frustrated about, but so it cannot be about anger. It's not about what irritates us or makes us mad. It's about what is wrong. Discipline is about what is wrong. And this is crucial because when they do something wrong, it'll make you angry. But don't discipline them because you're angry. Discipline them because they did something wrong. Because if you do, then you'll probably use the right measure. But if you do it because you're angry, what if you get really angry? What if you had a really bad day at work, then you had a flat tire on your way home, people are irritating, you're in a bad mood, and then they do something wrong? Well, now the problem is the discipline is going to be way bigger because your anger is the measure. Your anger should not be the measure of the discipline. And as difficult as this is, sometimes you'll have to discipline your kids even when you're not angry at all. I want to let you in on a secret. I have disciplined my children while laughing about what they did. Now, I will try not to laugh while I'm disciplining them because I'm afraid that might scar them. That's a strange, that's a terrible look, But there's been times they've done something, I'm like, go to your room, get out of it, because I have to laugh. Get it out of my system. It's not. But they did what was wrong. And they need to know this. Part of their character development, they need to know that the biggest rule in life is not don't get mom or dad angry. That's a terrible rule to learn. They need to learn don't do what is wrong. Okay, so discipline is not about parental anger. This is also why we must define the consequences beforehand. You must define consequences beforehand. Now, you're not always going to be able to do that beforehand, but when something new happens, because every parent, you know this, every week it seems like they find a new way to get in trouble, so now you're going to have to make a new definition. Okay, all right. If you do that again, then these are the consequences. If you do that again, no phone for 24 hours. That's the new rule. Okay, if you do that again, it's 2 swats. So you must define it. You have to know, and they have to know. You keep it clear because that is what keeps you in line. It doesn't just get to be whatever. And then if you are really, really angry, you still know. We've already agreed the discipline is 2 swats. I don't get to give them 4 because I'm extra angry. You define the consequences. It keeps it clear in their mind. Remember last week we talked about one of the reasons for discipline is we are teaching our children the reality of consequences in life. They need to know that when you do certain things, there are consequences, so define them. It keeps it clear in their mind. It keeps the parents from crossing the line. It is a determined and a defined consequence. Clearly defined consequences protect families from parental anger. They're boundaries for parents. They create a safe environment within which there can be corporal punishment and safety. Because you've defined the boundaries. This is it. Listen, if you don't ever want to get a hiding again, I can tell you how. Do this, this, and this, and don't do this, this, and this. And it'll be cool. You'll never get spanked again. so you can define it. So you must define the consequences. This is also why we need to share disciplinary duties. Share disciplinary duties. If there are two parents in the home, they need to share the discipline. Now, if there's only one parent in the home, it's you. I'm sorry, you have to do it all. But if there are two parents, my conviction is that disciplinary duties must be shared for a number of reasons. One, this will keep balance in the parent. There have been times when Rachel and I, we've relieved each other, right? Maybe the discipline is too high. Usually it's I will take over for Rachel because the kids have a way they can get to her emotionally in a way they can't get to me. Some of our older kids would do things with her that they would never try with me. And so I would intervene because I don't want her to have to be in there for 30 minutes wrestling with this demon-possessed, this treasure of my heart. Right? There's been times I've in the house, Rachel, hold on, wait, I'm coming. And I go and say, you are relieved. I'll take over from here. Because I don't want her to have to deal with that. You've got to keep balance in that. So this keeps the parents balanced. Listen, dads, if you are working and your wife stays at home, here's great advice for you. When you get home, if the kids need a hiding, do it. Your wife has been fighting them all day. Take that off her hands. You'd be amazed at what dividends that might reap for you in life later on. You just go help out. This isn't a marriage lesson, but she was first, right? First comes love, then comes marriage, then comes the baby in the baby carriage, right? She's first and she will be last. The kids, they're just visitors. Hello. Now, I know in South Africa, sometimes they're visitors for a long time. You're like, are you ever going to move out? Okay, maybe you got to kick them out of the house, right? 18, 19, get them out. Amen. Maybe I should change my sermon this morning. Right? Remember, the spouse is the one you're going to be with forever, not the kids. So, we share disciplinary duties to keep balance in the couple, and this also keeps the kids balanced. The kids need to know that there isn't one parent that they can get away with it, right? I know, but if mom was only here, right? It'd be all, They need to know that discipline will come from both sides. Now, there is a very practical, physical limitation. I think I talked about this last week. There came a point in my life when my mother could not hurt me any longer. As hard as she wanted to spank me, it just didn't hurt. But she still disciplined me because she had my dad's ear. She would say, okay, and she wasn't big at all. She's shorter than I am now, but she would look me in the eye. She said, it's okay, your dad's coming home. And I'd be like, oh, Mom. I would be an angel. I'd be washing the dishes. You're so beautiful. She'd be like, thank you, sweetie, dad's still coming home. And she was faithful. He would come home, hi, how's everything? She'd say, Jonathan needs a spanking. My dad would not even ask why. He wouldn't like second guess. Well, why? Well, I don't know. Maybe he shouldn't. He would say, he needs a spanking? Go bend over the bed. And I'd go bend over and I'd be waiting for him. Till he was, whatever, washing up, I don't know. And then he would, because he could hurt me. So I knew that both parents had the ability to hurt me. They had the ability to bring discipline upon me. This is crucial for kids. Because if the kids know that it's only dad that does the discipline or it's only mom that does the discipline, their behavior is going to be imbalanced. They're going to be different with each parent. That's not healthy. And then, of course, this is why your relationship with God matters. We need to be connected to the God of restraint, the God of grace and mercy. Listen, in all of this, God is righteous, God is just, He's still a gracious God, He's still a merciful God. And when we are raising our children, we need to personally reflect the character and the nature of God in the raising of our children and in our discipline of them. 2 Samuel 24:16.
And when the angel stretched out his hand over Jerusalem to destroy it, the Lord relented from the destruction and said to the angel who was destroying the people, "It is enough. Now restrain your hand." And the angel of the Lord was by the threshing floor of Araunah the Jebusite.
Okay, so here is God. He is punishing real sin. This is deep sin. The punishment is so bad, people are dying. And yet, in the middle of it, God says, stop, that's enough. Even though he already said he was going to do this much, God, in his restraint, pulled back and said, no, I'm doing less. My discipline is going to be less than what I said it was going to be. Because he has compassion and he's a God of restraint. Here's a crucial truth, parent. You can walk away. You can take a breath. You can chill out. But I get it. They're insane. They're making you lose your, just take a breath. You could come back and deal with this tomorrow. You don't have to do it right now. You can let yourself cool down so that you can deal with it with restraint. There is no sin in leaving an issue alone for a few minutes or for a few days. There have been times I've sat down with my kids and said, listen, here's the deal, we need to talk. Last week, this is what happened, right? And they're like, oh, last week. No, we're talking about this. If I would have had this conversation with you last week, I wouldn't have been using my Christian vocabulary. I had to calm down a bit. So we're going to have this conversation now. It's okay to take a break. And parents, I know that we know this, and you don't think your kids know this, but your kids do know this. We are fallible. We make mistakes. It is possible you might say something, that's it. I'm whatever, and you name a punishment, and then you realize later, that was too much. My mom's favorite saying to me, I will rip your arm off and beat you with it. Mom, it doesn't even make sense. I mean, you ever have one of that's it, you're grounded for life. And then you get home and you're like, oh, that means they're always going to be here. Never mind. You can change your mind. You could say, that's it, you're getting 10 swats. And then you get home and realize, 10, that was too much. We're going to do 5. That's okay. There's no sin in that. So, when we talk about balance, number 1 is restraint. The other side of balance is that discipline requires diligence. Discipline requires, we could say it demands diligence. Proverbs 22, verse 6.
Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it.
The word train means to teach or to straighten. That's not something that happens periodically or haphazardly. It is something that is only effective when it is regular, right? Think about when you train your body. We all do this, January 1st, we're like, that's it. This is the year. I'm losing the belly and I'm getting the guns, right? And what do you do for like 2 days? You work out until you're paralyzed. And then you never do it again until January 1st again. And nothing changes, right? Disciplining your children is the same. You can't, you hear Pastor Heimberg, thank you. Now we're going to get serious, right? But then, now it's school holidays. I'm not going to be so serious now. Well, you're never going to train them. It requires diligence. We don't have like vacations from discipline, right? We don't have like, well, you know what? It's your birthday month. No discipline this month, No, right? I don't know if all of my children, but I know some of my children have most definitely gotten spankings on their birthday. Because you don't get a holiday, right? It doesn't work in the world, right? If you show up late to work and hungover, and the boss is going to, no, boss, it's my birthday. Oh, never mind. You can be an idiot on your, that doesn't work that way. If you commit a crime on your birthday, you still go to jail. I mean, theoretically, I guess, things are a little more flexible. But that's the idea, right? Discipline requires diligence. Here is the dilemma. I talked just a moment ago about exercising restraint. It's okay to pull back sometimes. The problem is sometimes we exercise too much restraint. Oh, no, they're having a rough time. They had a bad week at school. Their friends at church weren't talking to them. I'm going to give them a pass. And what happens is we end up restraining ourselves completely from discipline in any meaningful sort of way. And then, of course, we have seasons in life when there's just peace and harmony. There's been times when life is just like, okay, like, this is nice. I'm happy. The weather's nice. Everything's good. And you don't want to have to discipline your child. And so you'd rather just ignore it. Oh, come on, it's a beautiful day. All right, why do you got to stop it, man? I don't want to have to spank you. Would you please? And we're trying to negotiate with them, right? But diligence is the key. The problem is that our restraint for some parents becomes perpetual. I've talked to lots of parents where they can identify a time either in their own life or in their child's life when they just stopped disciplining them. And they don't know why. I'll ask kids, when's the last time you got a hiding? I'm like, oh, I was 14, right? And you ask the parent, well, what happened at 14? I mean, did Jesus show up and they started glowing with the Holy Spirit? Is that what happened? No, it's just like, I just got tired of it. Right? And we don't know why. We just stopped. We don't know why it happened. We just kind of, we've got different kinds of discipline now. Now we have a conversation about what they did. So the scriptural command is that we should exercise discipline diligently. Do not refrain from doing what is necessary or righteous. Proverbs 23, verses 13 and 14.
Do not withhold correction from a child, for if you beat him with a rod, he will not die. You shall beat him with a rod and deliver his soul from hell.
And then if we were to read that in the New Living Translation, it says, don't fail to discipline your children. The rod of punishment won't kill them. Physical discipline may well save them from death. There are key words in this text. Number one, withhold. Do not withhold. That word is used more commonly when we talk about doing good. Don't withhold doing good to people around you. That's what he's saying. This is a good thing. Don't withhold it. Don't keep it back. It says don't fail to discipline. So what he's saying is that there is a danger, there is an error when we withhold too much. We must have diligence. Can someone tell me, what does the word diligence mean? Someone define that for me. What is diligence? Rachel? Consistency over time, yes. What else? Any other ideas? Yep, Kosanati. What is that? Being disciplined, yes. There's that component to it, sure. Yes? Discretion, okay. Yeah, these are all helpful words. The actual dictionary definition is careful and persistent work or effort, close attention, and caution. Literally to pay attention to do the thing the right way. That's what diligence is. It means I am going to pay close attention and make sure this turns out the way it should. So we must have diligence in our discipline. Think about why that is for a few minutes. Number one, discipline is going to cost you energy. Discipline is tiring. It will wear you out. Often, the times that our children need disciplinary attention is when we want to give it to them the least, right? At night, we just got home from church, or it's tired, and now you're going to act a fool. Come on, man. I'm just trying to go to bed, right? I don't want to deal with this right now. It's going to cost you. It costs you energy. You can be tired after work or after school, or life is hectic. There's things going on. Sometimes, we have 5 children. Sometimes I'm just tired of discipline. I want to tell you, my life right now is so different than it used to be. We only have 2 kids in the home. Greg and Claire have learned some powerful lessons. They grew up with their older siblings. I had only one sibling. She was an older sister. I watched her. I learned from her. And I didn't learn how to be a better person, but I did learn how to not get in trouble. Now, these 2, they've had 3 siblings to learn from. So my house is pretty peaceful right now. Discipline still happens, but not nearly at the level it used to be. When all 5 were in the home, the house we lived in Gallup, it was kind of long. It was an odd-shaped house. My office was at the very end, and so all the rooms, all day. I'd be, hey, knock it off, shut up, apologize. And there's times I'm convinced my neighbors would be like, I'm sorry. What am I apologizing for? If it seemed like it was there's times I tell Rachel, I'm sick and tired of discipline. I don't want to yell anymore. Right? One of maybe a story I'll tell another time. One of our funniest family legends came from a time when I was pleading with my kids, please don't make me yell today. That's how my life was. I legitimately had a conversation. We're getting in the car, please don't make me yell. I have to preach tomorrow, please. Don't make me yell. Because discipline will cost you energy. It is going to extract energy from you. There's been times I've told Rachel, I so do not want to do this right now. But I have to. Funny story, when we were in the Gallup church, a couple of guys in the church, I don't know who it was. It was a group of people got together and they bought me an Apple Watch, my first Apple Watch, and they have these exercise things. Back then, I didn't do any exercise. I didn't know. It was a waste to me, right? It would beep and be like, time to stand up, and they would say, you need to walk more. I use Antichrist telling me what to do. And apparently there's like a thing, if you do it, if you move enough, if you burn enough calories, it's like you did it, right? You did it. And so I'd only had the watch about a week, and I was applying the rod of discipline to the seat of correction on one of my children, whack. And I felt this buzz, buzz, and I looked and said, you did it. That's a true story. Because discipline will cost you energy. Now, I don't know if Apple's going to make an app for that. They probably won't. But discipline will cost you time. Listen, there's no way around this. Discipline and correction does not happen in a moment. I've had parents ask me, so what do I need to do? I need to straighten them out. You are asking the wrong questions. You have to start applying discipline, and one day you'll see the results. It's going to cost you time. It's a process of life. It's going to cost you time today, and it's going to cost you years of your life. You apply. I have been disciplining children in my home for 20-something years now. So it costs time. It will be at inconvenient times. On your way to an event, in the middle of something else, you're preoccupied with something. Sometimes it feels like it's consuming your time. You know what? Can I be honest? As a parent, I like being with my kids. I don't want the only time I'm with my kids to be when I'm mad at them, when they've done something wrong. And you feel that as a parent. You're like, bro, I would just like to hang out with you if you'd stop acting like this. Our relationship wouldn't always have to involve physical pain, right? It's going to cost you time. And discipline will cost you emotionally. Unless you are an absolute sociopath. And I really hope you're not. There is no possible way that you enjoy the process of discipline. We can joke about these things, we can tell stories, but if you enjoy it, you're messed up. Something is wrong up here. If you get joy out of making a little child cry, something's wrong with you. Something's messed up in your head. Discipline is going to affect you emotionally. It'll make your children sad. It'll make them angry. It will make them dislike you. I wish I could say if you just discipline your children, they're going to be like, Daddy, I love you. It's not going to happen. There have been times, and it happens far more often than I would care to admit, but there have been times when I know a small person in my house whom I love very much despises me because of discipline. All right, what's wrong? Nothing. Okay, I'm what's wrong. I get it. You didn't like what I had to say. Right? It's going to cost you. And here is the power of diligence, is that it's something that we apply over time. The principles of discipline that you apply regularly over time, they can change the course of a life. Not today. There is nothing that you could say to your child or do, there's no trick I can give you that will change their life today. That's impossible. However, if you will apply these principles over time, just like a river can carve a canyon or footsteps mark a path over decades, eventually you will change the whole course of your child's life if you will be balanced. If you will have a measure of restraint and you will apply that diligently, God will help you. I want to stop there and open up for questions or comments this morning. You've got a question about our lesson. Question or a comment this morning. Lift your hand so I can call on you. Craig.
Pastor, what advice can you give parents when it comes to physical discipline? At what age do you stop?
At what age do you stop?
Yeah, the kids.
It's not an age, it's a location. It's when they move out of your house.
Okay.
How about some parents like, yeah, right. Oh, do some push-ups. No, just, yes, Clinton.
So, Pastor, like in my talking about myself, my son, he stays with his mother, and yet knowingly he doesn't want to be there. He doesn't like the lifestyle and so. So as soon as I get opportunity, like to take him, to raise him on my own, and can I use that discipline against him to threaten him and say, if you don't change or do something right, I'll send you back to your mother. Knowingly, I can't keep him away from that.
No, I don't think so. If you're talking about, so let's say, for example, obviously we're speaking hypothetically. This is a situation that has not happened. If she is not saved and he's with you, your threat then is literally you're saying, I'll send you to hell. I don't think that's a worthy threat, right? And the point is we're not threatening our kids. We're setting boundaries. These are the rules, do this, and this is what the consequences are, right? And in, like I said, it's time, right? When he comes back to you, he's not going to change overnight. He's not going to change in a week or a month or a year. But in time, you apply righteous principles, God will begin to turn his heart. You take time. But no, I would not, for example, I've had parents, they use, so what you're saying is the discipline would be you have to go live in an unsaved place. I would not agree with that. On the other hand, I've had Christians where, like, their punishment to the kids is like, okay, fine, I'm going to make you read 10 chapters of the Bible. Well, no, the Bible shouldn't be punishment, right? Or I've had, those kinds of, you have to be thoughtful about, discipline has to make sense to the infraction. So, yeah, good question. All right, what else? Rachel.
I just wanted to share a bit because of kind of what you said in practicality. That's how I was raised. And I'm grateful. So something my parents implemented, especially my father, and he did have a temper growing up. However, it never crossed over to the discipline side of us. Like, even both of my parents, if we were in trouble, often I remember, because I got in trouble a lot because of my mouth. And so they would say, go to your room. When I calm down, I'll be in there. And we knew, like, I knew I was going to be in trouble, but it was never like just, haphazardly smacking and out of anger. And then something my dad implemented, which I know we've tried to do, is he would always explain before the spanking, do you know why I'm giving you a spanking? And he would tell us, and then if we didn't understand, he would explain. If not, he said, listen, I'm not doing this because I want to hurt you, but I'm doing this because the Bible says if I don't correct your behavior, blah, blah. He would explain it, and not in some weird way like this hurts me more than it hurts you, but it was always very open. It was like a transaction. It wasn't an emotional experience. And so then we were done. He'd give us a minute, and then he'd say, listen, I still love you. It's over. We're going to forget about this. We're going to move on. But just so you know, don't do it again. And it's something that stuck with me. So it's what you're saying, but from it's my own experience that this is how my father did things. Yes. And I'm so appreciative because now I never doubted his love because he was always, listen, I'm spanking you not because I don't love you, but because you did wrong. And then, hey, it's over. We move on. It's not. They never held things over my head. It was never this prolonged discipline like, oh, remember, you did this, you did this, you did this. So I just wanted to share that it works in practicality.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Very good. What else? Shanil.
So, Pastor, I know that discipline is there to correct wrong behavior or to put boundaries and things like that. But then when it comes to, and maybe this will fall in later lessons, rewarding good behavior. So is that something that you should do, or is it teaching your kids that with every good thing you do, you will get something good in return, or is it just a form of you need to be a good person? So if you do something good, you'll get something good. Okay, here's a piece of candy or something that you've always wanted, or is it just a thing of you have to do good in school or else, you know, you're going to end up broke and things like that? So with the discipline, how does the reward then balance?
So with the issue of rewarding good behavior, I don't think it's wrong, but it definitely has to be limited because you don't want to raise children whose motivation is reward. Doing good should be reward enough. Being right should be reward enough. For us, the vast majority of how that operates in our home is the removal of things, not the addition of things. It's not like, if you do this, then I will let you get ice cream tonight. But it may very possibly be, we're going out for ice cream tonight, but you don't get any because you did wrong. Because our family, to be in our family is to be blessed. We love each other. We have a good time. This is a good place to live, right? I may remove privileges. I don't want them to be the kind of person. I used to pastor a man in Las Vegas who, when he wanted to get involved in ministry, he actually asked me the question, and word for word, Pastor, what is the bare minimum I need to do to be involved in ministry? Because he doesn't get it. He's got a reward mindset. If I do enough, then you'll give me this. Do what's right because it's right, right? Now, it's not wrong. There are certain things, we have at times entice the kids. Listen, if you get your rooms clean soon enough, we'll go get ice cream or whatever, that kind of thing. But I would say you do want to keep that limited. That can't be the main factor in the home. Zoe should clean her room because you told her to, not because she's going to get a treat afterward. Yeah, Jacoza?
I'm going to
bring it up close so we can hear you.
I'm going to be speaking a little bit about myself, though. So, in Ephesians, the Bible says we should honor our fathers and mothers, right? Mm-hmm. But then, one thing which is not taken into consideration is the next one, which says parents do not provoke your children to anger. Mm. So why is it that often a child's mental health is ignored until it's recognized when it turns into anger? Because in most of the situations, it happens where, you're having a back and forth conversation with your parents, right?
Right.
And, yes, you're not supposed to, talk back, but then in an African household, this is where they provoke you. Because you are being shouted and you know it's your role to keep quiet. And they'll keep asking you questions but then why do you do it? And then when you try to answer, then,
Right.
And then it's because where I grew up, I know my mom is crazy because she'll be because the last time I was hit, it was at 14, as you mentioned, so it's been 4 years approximately. Meaning that, so if she would hit me, she would ask me questions like, why are you doing this? And when I try to answer, she'd hit me for talking back. When I don't answer her, she would hit me for keeping quiet.
Sure.
So why is it that?
Well, so you have to remember that is a command given to Christian parents. To apply it to the whole rest of the world doesn't make sense, right? So, fathers, do not provoke your children. Yes, that's wise advice. But to say, why aren't sinners doing that? It doesn't apply. It wasn't written to them. It was written to believers, right? Just like any Christ commands. And then further, I can't speak for anyone else's household, right? In our household, there is a clear delineation. Our children are allowed to ask any question they want, but not right now. If I tell you stop, you must stop or you are in huge trouble. Now, once we've sorted this all out, now you could ask me, Dad, why did you tell me to stop? But when I say stop, they can't say, what, right? But define that. We've made that clear. There's no confusion. If our children were to get flicked or punished or whatever, and you were to ask them, they would tell you exactly why, because they know it was defined. So, unfortunately, I can't speak for another family, for how anyone else operates, but I can tell you how it should operate. So, all right, very good. We're going to break there. We'll pick this up next week. Service begins in about 5 minutes.